Maya Angelou once said, "Creativity is not something that you can run out of. When you use more creativity, you just get more of it back." Now, let me start off by asking you this. We're all taught to think outside the box, correct? But how much do we actually know about thinking outside the box? How big is the figurative box we're being put in? How much contraction is, how many people are contained in the box that we're put in? If we think outside of the box, how many other people are also thinking outside of the box, which will make our idea less creative? In the end, the one thing that we can take away from thinking outside of the box is that it offers more space. Thinking inside the box constrains your thoughts, and you aren't able to think as much as you would if you were to think outside of the box. Thinking outside of the box is something that can benefit everyone and the people surrounding them in many ways. This can be shown through a literary example of a boy who loses all of his memories but finds out a very creative yet dangerous way to bring them back. Also, a transcendentalist writer who tries to cement himself as one of the best writers of all time in a very peculiar way, as well as our hometown heroes in sports, the New England Patriots. On to my first point of analysis. In the book Being Henry David, a boy named Daniel Henderson loses all of his memory at the very start of the book. Now, I'm sure you all can't relate to waking up in the busy streets of New York, as well as Penn Station, but it's something that we can relate to when we can't remember something, and we try very hard to bring it back. Except this situation is a little bit different. Daniel Henderson has lost all of his memories up to a certain point, but he can vaguely remember some triggers that will bring back some moments that he's had in his past, which he can continue to remember a little bit more thoroughly. But see, what happens is, when he thinks about these triggers, one trigger actually destroys him in a way: the word sister. When Daniel thinks of the word sister, his mind completely shuts down. His mind takes total control over his body, and he can't control himself. It's almost a mental seizure based on just one little word, sister. But what Daniel realizes is that the word sister has some kind of very significant meaning to him. Though it might be dangerous to him and his life, he needs to keep thinking about his sister in order to bring the memories back and see what happened. Why is he behaving this way when he thinks of the word sister? What kind of bad action or crime did he commit when he was back in the past that involved his sister that he doesn't want to think about? Eventually, thinking about the word sister and constantly harming his body in multiple ways, he actually regains his memory and finds out that he was involved in a car crash with his sister that resulted in her lost leg. But you see, if he didn't think outside of the box, if he didn't think creatively to actually destroy himself in the very way that he thought and regained his memory back, he wouldn't have been able to find out so much about himself. Thinking outside the box eventually resulted in the best outcome for Danny Henderson. Now, onto my second point of analysis, a perfect segue. A transcendentalist writer is a writer who believes in optimism. A writer who abides by the law carpe diem. Living life in the present, not thinking about the past or the future, what the future has to offer, or what the past has done to you, but to actually think in the present and live life to the fullest as it is. Henry David Thoreau, the author who the aforementioned book was named after, is most famous for his trip to Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts. Now, I guarantee you, none of you would actually have the guts to go to Walden Pond and live out in nature for 2 years. But see, Henry David Thoreau had a vision in his life to be cemented as one of the best writers of all time. So what he did was, after mourning the loss of his brother, he made his way to Walden Pond to unite himself with nature. He wanted to become one with nature and one with the world. No other transcendentalist writer would have ever thought of doing this. But you see, Henry David Thoreau thought creatively. He thought outside the box and he made his way to Walden Pond and wrote a fantastic book by the name of Walden. This book has sold millions of copies worldwide, and Henry David Thoreau is now one of the most world-renowned authors of his generation and of his genre. But if he had not thought creatively, if he had not thought outside of the box, made that decision to go to Walden Pond, live by himself in the depths of nature for 2 years, he would not have had this opportunity. Lastly, we can discuss our New England Patriots, our hometown football team that just recently won the Super Bowl. Now, we can start off by talking about Tom Brady as well as Bill Belichick. This coach and player combo is arguably the best coach and player combo of all time. But what makes them really special is their creativity when approaching upcoming games as well as upcoming seasons. They won the Super Bowl together in 2001, 2003, and 2004. And then it took them 10 or so years to get back to winning another one, but they did it. But what makes this duo so creative is one, the trick plays that they used to run in the game, as well as their press conferences. One of the most famous patriotic plays in New England Patriots history is the Statue of Liberty, where Tom Brady would hold the ball up above his head and the wide receiver would swoop around behind him, grab the ball, and run it in for a touchdown. You see, this play was not very common, and especially using it in the Super Bowl was a high-risk, high-reward moment. This creative play resulted in the winning of the Super Bowl and the pride of so many people around the nation. If they hadn't thought creatively or taken that risk to think outside the box, who knows what might have happened. Another thing that they do is during their press conferences, they never think about winning the Super Bowl that year. If you listen to Bill Belichick's conferences, he always finishes every conference just thinking about the next game. And then after that game, thinking about the next game after that. This creative attitude and perspective towards tackling football games one by one, each in a row, is something creative that not many other people do. You see, lots of other teams focus on winning the Super Bowl at the very beginning of the year. But Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the New England Patriots like to take it one step at a time. We've seen how this creative thinking, this unique perspective on winning games one by one, has resulted in so many victories for the Patriots. All in all, Maya Angelou is totally correct when she says, creativity is not something that you can run out of. The more you use it, the more you get. Because creativity happens all in a row. Creativity never runs out, and you always have more of it to use. We can see how creativity is used in Being Henry David, where the boy puts his life in danger just to regain his memories. Henry David Thoreau, who decides to take a unique trip to Walden Pond in order to become one of the best writers of his genre, as well as Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots, one of the most revolutionary teams of today's football century. We've seen how creativity can be used in many different ways, and we've seen that creativity doesn't run out. Now we need to apply this to our own lives. Daniel from Being Henry David did it, Henry David Thoreau did it, as well as the New England Patriots. Now the real question is, can you?